What's up, everybody? I'm Kevin Coleman with Football Guys, and today we're going to be talking about your Dynasty team and how to rebuild. So it's coming on week 10. You might not be where you want to be in terms of Dynasty, and the worst part about Dynasty is staying in the middle. You either want to be rebuilding and kind of reassembling your team with assets, or you want to go win it and be a contender. So last week on the channel, what I did is I went through targets to do if you are contending. This week, we're going to look how to rebuild your Dynasty team. So let's dive in. All right, first area that you want to address when you're looking at how to rebuild, understanding the cycle of pick and player value. Like that is number one, most important thing when we're rebuilding our Dynasty teams and how to do this. Now, I have a graphic for you that's going to help you with that. So let's take a look. Now, this is from EK Baller. If you have him on Twitter, he gave me his permission to share. Absolutely love this thing. You need to take a look. So if you pause it and you kind of go through it, but I'll kind of help you a little bit. So where we're at right now, so you can see us, we're in that November, December range. So just based on this is telling you when to buy picks. And this is where it's going to be the cheapest in terms of that push. Now we're heading into the playoff push right now. So there is peak player value coming up. So right now, November, December, especially at the running back position, which we'll talk about, there is peak player value to go grab and try to trade and get some picks. And this is when you kind of do this. Now, if you look through the chart as you go through, obviously the playoffs, if you have a trade deadline that's not going to be there, you're going to want to sell picks in between that February and March, because that's when the value is on that side. And you just go around the board and around the circle there, you're going to see when to kind of go through. You'll see future pick value, draft capital, all there. But right now, in terms of rebuilding your team, this is the time. Like November, December is the time to get ahead of that deadline, sell, get some assets, and try to rebuild here and having a mindset. So this is the most important thing from this video that you should take away. Now, you still watch the other video, part of the video. I'm going to give you other things to talk about, but you got to understand player and pick value, because before you even decide, especially for you new Dynasty owners out there and have never done this before, and managers, you need to decide when is the time to go rebuild and how to value those picks. That chart will help you with everything that you need, especially because I get a lot of questions from new Dynasty managers that have never done the format. Like, okay, well, how do I sell? What do I sell? Be the first to sell. What do I do here? So that value chart covers it all for you in terms of where you have your player and pick value. Now, next, what I would do is you're going to trade away running backs. And I just say this because of the volatile asset that they have. Now, I'm never going to be on this channel not giving you actionable advice and actual takeaways. So I'm going to go through 4 running backs that I think that you should be trying to trade away right now, 2 contenders, and what you can get for them. So shout out DLF Trade Finder and all those things of guys that you can kind of look back at player value. So first, Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler has had a tremendous season. He's been a running back 1, but he's also on the older side. If you're rebuilding your rosters, Austin Ekeler is not a player that you want to keep on there. Now, here are some deals that you can kind of make and some values out there that you can kind of grab. Austin Ekeler was traded for J.K. Dobbins in a first. Another thing that I think is important to notice, so this deal, you get Dobbins, who has questionable marks with that ACL, but you also get the first back. I think one big thing that I see a lot of Dynasty managers, mistakes that I see them make, is that they just trade for first. First are just lottery picks. We've missed on first all the time. Look at this year. Sky Moore was getting drafted ahead of Chris Olave. There's things that have happened that we're like, wow, why would we take those draft picks? First are just lotteries, and they can put you in a deeper hole in Dynasty. I always try to pair Ekeler, a running back like that, with another asset. J.K. Dobbins, you're looking at Breece Hall, Javonte, some of these guys that are injured, that are coming off that. Saquon was at a target last year, right? So you're looking for guys that can get you some type of asset back. Don't just trade for first, unless it's a big haul. But even then, I'm worried about just trading for first the lottery picks. We think we're smarter than we actually are when it comes to lottery picks and first-round picks, and I think that's a mistake that we make. Now, another kind of just for value-wise, so you understand, Ekeler for Javonte Williams. Straight up, hey, you get an asset. I'd love to get a pick back, at least a second or something there, but you get an asset, right? And you're looking for it. Now, the next guy that I think that you should be trying to trade, if you have him on your team, on a rebuild team, is Christian McCaffrey's value right now is through the roof, everybody. This is the time. Like, if you've been holding on to McCaffrey, hoping for that value, this is where we go. Now, recently, he got traded for 3 firsts. 324 first. And we're going to break down what the classes look like here in a minute, but 324 first. Now, this is where I say, I just said, hey, don't just trade for picks, but 324 first, I like that. I like that a little bit. Maybe you get a little bit of an asset thrown in there, but if you're getting 3 first-round picks, I think that's a little less nerve-wracking from lottery pick standard. If you're just getting 2 or 1, I think that's the question. Now, he also got traded straight up in a Superflex league for Kyler Murray. I love that deal for rebuilding dynasty teams. You're going to get a young asset like Kyler, who we know has setbacks, but he's a top 6 QB in fantasy, just based on his rushing upside. If Cliff gets on, all those things are there. Like, that's how you rebuild. You don't just go trade for another running back. You trade for a guy like Kyler, who you can rebuild your quarterbacks, and then you go attack running backs later, like we're going to mention how to kind of rebuild there. Now, next guy, Nick Chubb. It's really hard to trade Nick Chubb right now, even though he's a running back 1 in fantasy, even in PPR leagues. For some reason, just guys don't want to give up anything there. Now, some deals that I found I thought were interesting. Nick Chubb for George Pickens and a 23 first. I just biggest thing for me when I'm rebuilding in Dynasty is rebuild through your wide receivers. When you do that, that's where the value is at, right? So George Pickens, plus you get that first. If you believe in George, he could be that wide receiver 2 moving forward. You believe in Kenny Pickett, then you get a first as well. That's where you kind of rebuild that value. I don't hate that based on the market value right now for Chubb because it's such a volatile market. But he also went for Najee Harris, a 3rd round, and James Mitchell, the Detroit Lions tight end. Again, you're getting Najee Harris, who again is younger. Maybe you still believe in Najee and you're not worried about him in terms of his value. His value has dipped on certain markets, like running back 23, 22. So again, I think there's some question marks there. But if you believe in Najee, you get a little younger, he has a better year, and then you can flip him again for more value. I think that's always the play in terms of where this is at in sort of Dynasty. Remember, Dynasty markets shift really fast in terms of where we're looking for. Now, the last guy is Alvin Kamara. Alvin's looked pretty good this season. We've seen him. There's still that maybe looming suspension. I'm not sure. Drew Davenport's talked about it. We don't know what that's going to look like. But you can go out there and get guys. So he got traded straight up for Javonte Williams. And again, if you're looking for those kind of people, those pieces there, right now is the dynamic time to go grab some running backs. Those younger running backs may be injured, and you plug them in on your Dynasty roster because the running backs aren't going to necessarily matter next year for your Dynasty team. They're still going to be recovering. You could still get assets. You still put yourself in a good position for the 24 draft. And in 2 years, when you're ready to compete, then you have a guy like Javonte, Breece, these type of guys that are out there right now for Dynasty contenders that they need a running back. Kamara sitting on a rebuild, go grab him. That's how you look at that. Now, after that, some other strategies to dive through here. Look to add future seconds. I do think that when we're looking at just in general, what we see is like there are value to add in seconds. Ayuk, some other guys, Jahan Dotson. There's some guys out there just from recent value. Dameon Pierce, some of these other guys. Like I try to add as many seconds as I can. I don't try to add 3rds and 4ths. So to me, I'm not looking for that. If I can pair a 3rd and a 4th with a player and get a second, I will do that. Like, so we'll go through your roster clogger. So the 23 class, as we've talked about on the Football Guys College Football Show and all those things, have very, very good running back depth. So there's going to be a lot of running backs in the Dynasty market right now, the roster cloggers that you have that are just going to be churned out. Right now is the time to go kind of give them up, add maybe a 3rd and get a second, right? So guys, McKissick, if he comes back, there's other guys on that running back chopping block, even Mostert, Jeff Wilson, these guys that you're like, hey, I don't know if I can get a second for them straight up. If you add a 4th, maybe they'll do it, or a 3rd. I would rather take the value of a second because especially with the depth of the classes coming up, what you can maneuver. And then you never know when you're on that, when you look at that chart I showed you, you can use those seconds and trade. What maybe a guy falls down and then you can get more value. You know, when you're looking at that, I saw Pickens fall and people really fall in love with Pickens last year and they're willing to give up more value when you're in your rookie draft. So add future seconds, not 3rd and 4ths. Go attack those seconds because I think they're an underrated commodity in the Dynasty market. Now, also, we need to also account for our differences in positional aging and development, right? So you need to know, like, all right, when am I going to be competing? So what does this rebuild look like? Don't be a perpetual rebuilder. Don't be that guy that just rebuilds every year. That doesn't work. But if I have a mindset, so I have my sheet, and I would argue Google Sheets, have it, look at your aging roster, see, okay, I'm going to rebuild for 2 years away. Then if you're going to do that, which I would recommend, if this is a full rebuild, not a soft rebuild, then you need to understand, like, my preferred draft picks are wide receivers then. I'm going to go through and understand that wide receivers, I'm okay with them developing and them hitting, and that is where my value is going to be. I'm a notorious 0 running back guy, look for value, those type of things, but I'm not going to add a running back right away. So, like, I see all these tank for Bijan in Dynasty. You could tank for Bijan, but by the time you're ready to compete, Bijan 2 or 3 years down the road, we don't know what that value is going to look like, and your team might not be ready. So build through those wide receivers. Don't reach on quarterbacks, especially in your rookie drafts. Imagine taking Kenny Pickett at the 107 over Olave. Like, these are mistakes that we see people make, and so understand that. Wait on tight end. I wouldn't even worry about the tight end position. There's so many churners and burners that you can put there. And then add running backs when you are ready to compete. when you're ready to compete. Not like, hey, not next year for Bijan and I have a bunch of trash on my roster. No, add them when you're ready to compete. And the way I want to show you this, I'm going to show you this right before we get out of here, is I want to show you the 23 class versus the 24 class. Now, I do primarily focus in Devy and those type of things, and so I know these ratings, so I try to compare them both. So this is just based on the big board and where we see everything right now. So if you want to pause it, you can kind of look at. These are the first 2 rounds in terms of the next class and the 24 class of what you guys you could be looking at and where the value is at, right? So wide receivers, not so much the 23, but the 24 class definitely has a high class of wide receivers. The running back class is going to be your 23 class. Quarterbacks are going to be your 24 class. So there is a chance to kind of rebuild there. And then I also want to show you my big board that I do every week for Football Guys. So please check it out. And these are the top 36 draft eligible Superflex players in the 23 class. So this gives you an idea where the value is. And I'm going to tell you right now, 12 through 18 running backs. That is where the value is in the 23 class, is at the running back depth positions and where they're at. So I appreciate you guys tuning into the channel. As always, please hit that like and subscribe button. Find me on Twitter if you would like to ask me any Dynasty questions, especially rebuild strategies. I hope this helps you rebuild your team, because that's why we're here. Please follow the account, sub to the channel. We appreciate you guys here at Football Guys, and I'll see you guys next week.